Hello. In this video, my group talk about the instruments of commercial policy. Watch it to the class. Let's start Edinson Espinosa.
Hello, my name is Edinson Espinosa. I will explain what is a tariff. A tariff is a money that must be given to the government for import or export. This should always seek the benefit of the national industry. With this tribute to the government increases its national income. The ideal is to the tax materials that are not used by the national market for the manufacture of feed products. For example, of that is the milk and sugar tariffs which are the most expensive to the benefits the national industry. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to talk about export subsidy. An export subsidy is a trade policy instrument whose main objective is to strengthen the conditions of price and quantity offered in international markets of the products that are developed within an economy or country throughout of economic benefits to the productive sectors that vary as exports products. This can be translated in fiscal incentives, customs incentives, credit incentives, and tax incentives. A consequence. The consequence can be interpreted from four approaches. Producer surplus, consumer surplus, government renewed, and global national well-being. In the producer surpluses, for the producers, the benefit is substantial in they receive incentives for the government to optimize their operations. Consumers, the cost is that the product in the domestic market will not have benefits in its costs, therefore the market price will not have a benefit. Government revenue. For the government revenue, the cost lies in the fact that for any of the incentives previously addressed, it automatically represents a loss for tax revenue. In the national revenue count, the tax will no longer be revenue when grading these incentives. And the global national well-being, the benefits lies in generating competitive and the international level, uh, generating better conditions for the national industry. Example, the national flower industry is one of the beneficiaries of the so-called Plan Vallejo that gives a companies that operate in this product sector the possibility to import inputs with 0% tariff and 0% EBA. So lever exports the finished products. Thank you.
My name is Juan Camilo Hernandez, and I am going to explain what the import quotas are. Import quotas are a restriction that applies to the quantity of a good that can be imported. This restriction is imposed through license to companies or different groups dedicated to importation. The difference of the importation quota for the tariff is that in the case the income generated by this activity is not destined to the state but to the one that receives the important license. This is known as quota income. It should be noted that an imported quota always tends to increase the national price of the imported good and the countries use the restriction to protect the national product. Example, in Colombia, free trade agreement with the United States, one of the main achievements was opening of the important quota of 15,000 tons of beans because This product has priority because it comes from a peasant economy. In general, import quotas generate an increase in the producer surplus for the profits obtained by the latter, otherwise the consumer surplus, as usual, decrease since people would have to pay more for the product. Income of the government do not change because in the case the winners are the holders of the license income quota. And finally, the global national welfare is uncertain since the small country has the worst part. Thank you.
My name is Wilfran Hernandez. Voluntary sport restrictions is an import court where the port income is kept by the exporting country and is given when there are agreements signed between two governments, in which the government of the exporting country agrees to restrict the volume of its own exports, and it is precisely the exporting country that imposes it, and it normally does so when the importing country demands it, as there are threats of trade restrictions in its effects the walls below on the importing country income earned by foreigners under the bar, and therefore consumers will have to pay much more, and that cost represents more a transfer of income than a loss of efficiency. Example: the United States imports corn from the exporting country Colombia, in which Colombia imposes as a voluntary restriction score under the free trade agreement established between the two governments, a limit of 30,000 tons. Thank you.
My name is Laura Hernandez. In conclusion, I will deal you about the requirement of national content. It is the percentage that a country requests when importing a product so that it can be produced and marketed within it. For example, we consider a high voltage transformer in which the cost of imported components is $1,000. Suppose that buying the same components in the country costs $2,500, but that assembly companies are required to use 16% of national components, that it would have an average cost of components of $2,100, which will be reflected in the final price of the transformer. The effect of trade policies are: for the producer surplus increases, consumer surplus decreases, public income changes, and global national welfare increases. Thank you.
Okay, this is all about the instruments of commercial policy. Thank you.